Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you today again with Christina Marz, a psychotherapist all the way from Germany, but she actually lives in Ecuador. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again. And today we have a super interesting topic. I'm excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. We've been talking about teenagers and anxiety, social anxiety, depression, all sorts of problems we can have today, and not just as teenagers. And it came to me that a lot of people love riding horses and feel calmer. They have this kind of really calming effect on you for some reason. All pets do, pet therapy, hugging something. You see people in a wheelchair, people with cerebral palsy. And I was like, well, okay, riding horses is amazing. We know that it's so wonderful. But I hear a lot about equine therapy, really a therapy made with horses. And I am not sure how many of you guys can help me. What happens during this therapy? And I thought I would ask an expert because Christina in Ecuador has a special place where she has the horses and being a psychotherapist uses everything. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let her talk and see what happens here because what happens can he help me as a teenager? Can he help me as an adult? So where do we start?
Okay, so first of all, I really am a great expert on this because I also teach this. I don't only do it with my own horses, but I teach other people all over the world to partner with their horses and help people in psychotherapy and coaching and in different healing modalities. So it's not only my horses that have this magical gift, right? I actually know how to bring any horse to this modality. And let's start at why our horse is healing and why is it not enough to just get on a horse and do some riding lessons. That is beneficial, definitely, for certain reasons that are well researched. But then there is more to it and more to that connection with horses. Do you think that's a good place to start?
That's an excellent place.
Okay, all right. So when we do horseback riding, it is a different type of sport because we have to actually go into communication with another being, and that is helpful and empowering for us. It's different than riding a bike that you need to fix, but actually you need to be empathetic, respectful. You could also be violent, but usually we don't do that, right? Equestrians don't want to hit their horses. So that is a benefit on the communication side and on training your skills, how to lead, how to communicate with other people. And then there is a certain benefit to the gait of the horses. That's what they use in the classic equine therapy, where we put kids, you mentioned that, with cerebral palsy, with Down syndrome, with all kinds of motor issues. They put them on a horse because the horse's gait mimics the human gait. And that's why it stimulates all our nervous system and it really pumps the spinal fluid and it actually stimulates even speech. So, not only the motor system, it works different muscles in the body and is therefore good for people in wheelchairs, but it also stimulates your memory and your speech center, right? Because um, of that whole nervous system stimulation. So that will happen to anybody who is horseback riding, whether they have therapeutic instruction or not, right? So it is helpful. But then, as you mentioned, there's people with anxiety, people with depression who might be seeking equine therapy or horse assisted psychotherapy. And so why can't I do that with the horse in my riding school, right? That would be amazing. And actually, you can. Actually, you can. You have to prepare the horses a little bit because a horse in a riding school is used to obey, right? They
Mm.
wait, hopefully patiently because they're trained that way, and they wait what you tell them, and then they will do that. So they shut down their own instinct of trying to put you into harmony. That's what horses actually are seeking. They seek harmony with everybody who's part of their group, of their herd. But it's a little bit like, you know, you know that we people, you do hypnotherapy, so you know that we can feel a lot of things, right? We can feel if somebody is close to us, we can feel the emotions of another person. But imagine you're working, I don't know, in a shopping center with thousands of people streaming by every minute, then you will shut down that ability. because you can't handle it. You don't want to feel everybody's emotions, and you just shut it down. And that's what horses in a sports setting often do. So they have the ability to detect our emotions and to work with them, bringing them into harmony, but they don't want to because nobody's listening to them. So they shut it down. Does that make sense?
Wow, I have never talked to a horse and I never studied. I never talked to a therapist, so I really do not have any field of expertise here. I look at them from a distance, I touch them and they do, "Yee," and then I think, well, if he's gonna walk on me, I'm gonna be a little Italian meatball, I'm gonna be flat. So I
No,
stay.
horses are really gentle. Horses don't really, they don't want to hurt you. They want
Right.
to, horses are really soft and gentle. So that's why, when you go into a riding school and you engage with just any horse, that
Mm.
horse is not prepared, not asked for, not invited to work with your emotions. But we can invite them. It requires a little bit of preparation, and then you could actually work with the horses in your riding school. If there is a ranch in your vicinity where the horses live in a herd outside in the pasture, these horses are not shut down. They have their senses really on height, and they work together as a herd and help each other. So with these horses, you can actually just go into the paddock and sit with them, and they will be healing. Their presence will be healing for you because they bring you into their coherence field. Have you heard about heart coherence?
Well, sounds very much like Joe Dispenza.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about it. There is an institute, the HeartMath Institute, that talks about it, and it's something that can be measured. Our heartbeat has a different variability, right? So it's not about how fast or how slow it beats. It's about how much space there is between even between each heartbeat, sorry. How much space there is between each heartbeat. And depending on your emotions, that will vary. And if you have a very even heart rate, so if your heart rate variability shows coherence, some fancy words, but it means it's even and balanced,
Mm.
that translates into you feeling emotions of calmness, of inner balance, of love, of care, of compassion. And when you come into a harmonious herd that is just hanging out in a pasture, they are calm, they are connected, they're peaceful, and their hearts are so big and so heavy that their coherent heart field will be contagious for you. So even if you are depressed, anxious, frustrated, sad, if you come into that field, the horses will level you out and they will adapt your heart rate, and you will feel calmer, more connected, more curious also. So it's a great preparation to go into really any modality of healing, teaching, coaching, etc., right? Because you're prepared and you feel that inner calmness and inner balance. So that is the most simple application of healing with horses, and everybody can actually do it. It doesn't require anything else. No therapist needed.
That's exciting. And
Yes.
actually, yes, I do have a ranch in front of me
Mhm.
from a back window in up to Vienna. A good part of winter, I had probably about 40 or 50 horses there.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah, they were just, I'm Visit Wyoming, so there is a little bit more land than in England. And so one day was like -5 Celsius, and I walked there. It was snowy and it was minus, but I was like, I'm just gonna go there with my camera. And I walked very slowly, and slowly, slowly, a group of them came over to me, and then a black one came over and he let me pat him on the front here, on the nose. And I was like, hey, so I was talking to them and I took some photos of them and they look very nice and they were very friendly. It was between me and there was a fence.
Hmm.
I wasn't trying to do anything there.
Yeah.
And then I came back, I was like, how beautiful,
Yeah.
they're so majestic and
Yes.
good. And they do bring this homeostasis, kind of sense of calm and balance.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Yeah. And if there is so many horses, so the heart field of a person
Mm.
is a few meters around us, right? And then of a horse, it's sometimes even 10 times bigger than ours. And then if you have a herd, that grows exponentially. So imagine like, one horse next to you has a certain field that it involves you in. And then if there are several horses, the field grows bigger and stronger. So, 50 horses, that must have been like a rejuvenation, total therapy afternoon for you. And
Right.
yeah, and everybody can actually do that. And then there's, of course, more to it. So then there is the sensory stimulation when horses have a certain smell, you're outside in nature. When you pet them, you have a good tactile sensation. And when we are in connection with our senses, similar to mindfulness, right, then we also have a better regulation of our emotions. We are
Mm.
more intuitive. So these are also things that happen all the time. Maybe you have noticed when you are with the horses that you have a different body posture, right? So they are, as you said, they're majestic and they're big. So you reach out to pet them, or if you stroke them, then you make long movements, which means that you open your chest, right? So you look up, you open your chest and your shoulders, you open your heart area. And that, for example, for somebody who is depressed and usually sits like that, is very healing just by itself, because our body language expresses our emotions, but we can also influence our emotions through our body language. So if you stand upright and if you make big movements that suggest that you are secure and feeling safe and strong, your brain will actually believe it, and then you feel better. So for a person or a teenager that is anxious, withdrawn, or disconnected, just having them pet the horses or brush the horses will be beneficial and have a healing effect and help them regulate and make sense of their emotions. It doesn't require like a, PhD level intervention. It's really simple. And then those who are parents, maybe I'm parent of of teenagers as well, or therapists, you know that when you ask your teenagers like, hey, how's it going, and maybe they are already a little stressed, and they will be like, fine. And you have maybe a neutral face, and they
Mm.
will be, why are you angry? Like, I'm not angry, I'm fine. And that's because the teenage brain starts to interpret our facial expression differently. So they actually read hostility into a neutral face. Did you know that? I think that's so interesting. So interesting. So you actually have to be really engaging and really happy so that the teenagers perceive you as friendly. If you have like just your resting, face, resting neutral face, they often interpret it unwillingly, unconsciously as hostile. And they are wired to disconnect from you. So it's not as easy as it was when they were younger, right? You just hug them and you tell them a story and everything is peace and love. The teenagers is more difficult. And the same happens in therapy. If you ask a teenager about their feelings, they're like, oh, right? They roll their eyes and they're like, oh, why, right? But when they are together with the horses, they don't they don't bring up their protection mechanisms. They engage with the horses and they are sensitive and respectful and empathetic, and they start taking care of the horses. And by doing that, they get in touch with their own feelings, and then they can easily talk about it. It's not hostility anymore. It's really easy to um, understand them and to have them answer questions when they are engaging with something else. And the horses want to be with that. The horses want to help us bring the best out in people. They're not hostile. They're not getting bored. They like that kind of attention, and they like the shift of somebody from tension to harmony to feeling connected and calm. So they stay with us.
Wow.
Lots of
That's
information. I'm sorry.
That's a lot of good information because it makes you look at the horses under a different light. Because I love all animals. We have two little gerbils. I see when we lost our other two when we had to move, it was very sad for me and my daughter because it was this cuddly ball of fur and you take care of them. And now we have new ones. They're only 6 weeks old when we bought them last month. And you can just see this attention, the attempts to cuddle because the gerbils trying to go away all the time because they are shy little animals. But with a horse, you can see this powerful animal that if you want, he could just kill you with one little kick. And
Yes,
it's not. He
it's
can
not.
bite you and he won't do that. They're just
Yes.
calm little things and they got this big soul. So how do I explain this to a person who's more like more cynical or more scientific focused and they say, oh, Franz, this is all woohoo.
Yes. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like people
Right.
saying, "Oh, girls and horses, so magical," and they don't believe that it actually can have an effect. And I do actually explain some of that science that I just told you. For example, about body language and about, having that posture that means power and feeds something into our brain and helps us feel more empowered. The method that I teach is called horse guided empowerment. It's not equine therapy, it's horse guided empowerment, right? So it's, for example, that body language science. The heart coherence is also something that you can measure. There's a little device that you can connect to the earlobe. It measures your heartbeat, and you will see how your coherence rate doubles when you are in the vicinity of horses without doing anything. You can be angry all that you want, all cynical, but if I measure you inside and then we go out into the paddock, your coherence rate will adapt to the horses and will get better. And that you feel wanted or not, you will feel better, right? So there is actually science and measurement. It's not that magical coincidence that horses are so fun to be around. There is actually science behind that. Then the sensory stimulation is also something that is really researched. And you're right, you can have that with a fluffy dog as well. No doubt, you can have that with a cat, but then it's just the sensory stimulation. And with the horses, you have that and the body language and the coherence field. And then the next step would be using the horses' social structure. And I don't want to say hierarchy because it's not that there is an alpha horse who bosses everybody around and then everybody else is like following them out of fear. It is a very complex social structure that has a lot to do with or is very similar to our family structures. And they have lifelong friendships. They will choose buddies to eat with, they will choose buddies to play with, they will choose buddies to like run and train with. And all of that is something that you can see as you observe the herd. So people tend to observe the horses and then interpret that, but as they are not horse experts and we don't want to train them as, horse behavioral experts, they will interpret that behavior based on their own landscape, right? So as a therapist, you know that if somebody is, let's say, depressed, everything they look at looks depressing. It's not that they look at a flower and they're like, oh, beautiful flower. And they're like, yeah, we'll be dead soon. Or, right? They everything is painted, everything has that filter of their emotions. So when they interpret the herd, it also has the filter of their emotions and of their personal interactions with their family, their social network, at work, etc. And through that, I can really understand what is going on with them. Because as a therapist, I can read their body language and everything, but I don't get a really unfiltered, clean, neutral interpretation of the world. And when they interpret the horses, it is as neutral as it can get. They will tell me that this horse is, you know, um, outside of the herd because it doesn't feel accepted. I hear that all the time. And they know nothing about horses because it's not about the horses, it's about themselves. And then we can work with the horses. And I can ask, for example, so what do you think that one that is not accepted, what would it need? And they're like, yeah, just a little encouragement. Okay, so let's halter that horse. Let's bring it to the group. Let's see what happens. And through that, we practice what they will then later do at home with their own family members. So I have people talk to the horses and giving them motivational messages or teaching them calmness or helping them to be braver to go over an obstacle or something. And what they actually do is teach themselves. And I know that because it happened to me when I was really young. Right? I did that without having studied all of this. And I saw it. And then later, through my psychology studies, I understood what was actually going on and that it's way beyond only the benefit of the gait or the sensory stimulation. There's so much more that the horses can give us.
I just keep saying, wow.
Yeah.
People will be like, oh, so boring. She can't say anything else. But it's a wow thing. So, which situations, issues, or conditions can be helped in this way? We talked about anxiety and depression. Is there anything else as well?
So we were talking about teenagers specifically, right? So teenagers, I look at teenagers as somebody who is chronically misunderstood, probably tired, frustrated, not a hostile person, but their chronic misunderstanding and frustration plays out as either rebellion or withdrawal, right? So that's usually the two things that somebody will present with when they bring me a teenager. They're either withdrawn or rebellious. And when I bring them to the horses, they will first start to engage and interact with the horses without any judgment. So they can really do that from their own decision, and they will get reciprocity. The horses will react to them. So that is the first moment of relief, right? I'm doing it right. I can connect. I'm welcome here. And creating that feeling in a psychologist's office is difficult with teenagers, right? We have our tricks, but it's difficult. So first of all, the teenager feels accepted and calm. And when they're calm and accepted, then they can actually think. They're not just reacting. They're not in their reactive brain. They are not thinking about fight or flight. They can feel, okay, so who am I? What do I need? What do I want? And then I can use all kinds of interventions. So sometimes it's using a strategy that you could also use in a different setting. It gets just better through the horses. It gets easier with the horses, right? Then what I also get a lot is teenagers or kids, also adults, that are really shy and have a very low self-esteem. So they don't believe they are capable of doing things. They maybe dream about it, they want to do something, but they believe they're not capable. And with the horses, everything that we do is new, right? They have never halted a horse, led a horse, brought them over an obstacle. I do something called moving the herd, where we actually move 5 or 6 horses without any ropes or halters. We just move them through our energy, through our body language. And when you manage to do that, and I coach them into being able to do it, it is such a feeling of success, of wow, I can do that. Look at how strong I am, how able I am, how capable I am, that I can move these horses without having to be aggressive, being able to raise my voice without being criticized, and just doing it. So it's an embodiment therapy. They step into their power and test how much strength, aggression, softness, allowance they need in order to get a success response, right? So they practice what they can then later apply with their classmates, because horses they don't need huge amount of energy or aggression. They really will move based on your intention, and that will also work with your classmates.
So amazing and
Have I
exciting.
convinced you?
Yeah, thank you. Very convincing, especially knowing I can just walk across my road, and when they come back in this pasture, we can say, okay, let's go and have a little bit of free horse therapy is right there. And also we do have friends that own horses.
Mhm.
So there would be something to experiment. So if a person wanted to go and see you, not everyone lives in Ecuador, we understand. But I think you have is that like a retreat area? How does it work?
So I do retreats here in Ecuador, and it's actually a really nice place to travel to. So if you're interested in South America, it's a nice place. I also travel to other places. So I do workshops and small retreats in other countries. I'll be in Costa Rica, in Mexico, in South Africa, all over the world. And then for those who do have horses, I have a short course on Udemy that is like an introduction into everything that I've said. So I will go a little slower, maybe talk a little slowlier than now, and give the horse rider or the horse owner a couple of exercises so that they can test this with their own horses without any further need of courses or instructions. It's really simple exercises. So if anybody wants to do that, it's on Udemy. It's called Heart Coherence, HeartMath, and Horses, and you can search for my name, Christina Marz, or for HeartMath and Horses, and then you'll find it. And it's a very good start into that world if you know about horses and if you're interested in, you know, partnering with them for a healing modality. And then, of course, if you want to travel, I can meet you all over the world, wherever you want to.
See, there we go. Let's add something here to our schedule. A little trip to Ecuador or maybe to the
Yay.
other places where you're doing the workshops to understand the power the horses have to bring you to heart coherence and to open up your mind and your soul to something different. And it's not woohoo. Yay.
It's not. And you know what fascinates me maybe most about that? Because before I was a psychologist, I was a horse lover, right? So I was a horse girl, just exactly like that one in your background.
There we go.
Horse girl from very young age. And this modality is also healing and beneficial for the horses. So if you have a horse that is stressed or maybe a rescued horse, this modality and inviting them to give us their opinion and to help us heal and learn will actually also help the horses grow, be calmer, and be healthier. And then it's full circle, and then I'm like, yay, what's better? Right.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Christine. It's been such a pleasure to learn all about what we can do. All. A good part, there is a lot more about what we can achieve just working with a psychotherapist and the horse, but even sometimes just walking where there is one and maybe a whole herd. And as I always say, you think I'm going to repeat myself, but when we connect with nature, there is something special that happens, and
Absolutely.
it's not magic. It's just how we are wired. We're wired to be connected, not to be hermits.
Yes.
And the horses are amazing. So thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
I hope you guys will like and share this episode, maybe even subscribe to the show, and make sure you will check all the links that we will put under the episode description so that you can reach to Christina Marz and ask some questions you might have, because I'm not really the expert on this. But make sure you have a great week in Fict and maybe a nice little retreat in Ecuador. That would be quite a good thing for somebody. You don't know. So thank you for being with me, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.